One of the most common questions I get is how I prepare a message for a weekend service. So I'm going to try a really weird 4-minute video here. I'm going to try to record this in segments as I prepare a message that I'm going to deliver in a couple weeks. So it's going to take me actually a couple weeks to actually even film this video. I'm in 1 Corinthians right now, and we're going to be going through chapter 8 through 10 over the course of the next 5 weeks or so of this series. And I've been trying to figure out how to divide this passage up, and it seems to work best where I have verses 8, 1 through 13, so that's the whole chapter of 8, and then the end of 10, which is like 23 to 33, they make sense together. So the first thing I do is I print up that passage, and then I'm thinking about calling it Murder by Cheeseburger, so we'll see if that works, and then I will start to sketch some stuff out on here. So in a minute, I'll come back, or in an hour or so, and show you what this page looks like, and we'll go from there. You'll notice this page is a whole lot messier than it was when I started. We'll start right at the top. I've decided that I'm going to go with a different angle. This Murder by Cheeseburger didn't work. I thought because of food sacrifice to idols it might. I'm either going to call it Murder by Starbucks or Murder by Merlot, Wine Cooler, Dos Equis. In fact, I think I'm going to go Murder de Dos Equis. I think that'd be funny. And what I do is I just mark up the passage. When there's questions like, what does this mean? Where does this come from? I write that down. When I discover that I want to study something more in the Greek, I'll mark GRK there and just remind me that's an important word, I think, and I got to figure that out. I dot line connect things, different passages together. I found that there are two really important terms here, stumbling block and weak, in this passage. I think people misunderstand it. So I'm going to make sure I get into that a little bit. And I noticed that there are two different types of people with different problems in this passage. And so I marked that as well as a plan that Paul puts forward for them. And so I'm beginning to get a concept of what I can do. And I'm actually getting a concept of how to apply this at the end of the message. And that's something that I sometimes do very poorly. And I want to make sure that I get this time around. So anyway, I will now take this part and I will put it to bed for a couple days or maybe even half a week or a week, and I'll get back to it after I've had time to stew on it. It's been a week or so since I worked on my notes, and I realized that they're actually relatively detailed, and so there's not a whole lot I need to do, but I did want to whiteboard a few things kind of to map out a plan, and sometimes I'll whiteboard the entire message, and you'll notice today I only had to whiteboard a little bit of it. I have the introduction, kind of how I'm going to transition into this, and at the bottom I say, hey, I'm just now going to work it straight through, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, because what I do at this point is I sit down at my handy dandy desk. I've got Logos Bible software right here, loaded up with my favorite commentaries. My Bible sits right here, about ready to type something brand new here, and my notes that I wrote on last week are right here. And so this process will take me quite a bit of time. I'll be here for a couple hours typing, manuscripting, wordsmithing, reading commentaries on the different sections, and then hopefully I'll have a first draft of a manuscript done today, which I will again put to bed for a couple days, and then I'll look next week at the final manuscript and get that typed out. It's Saturday morning, and we've reached the final and perhaps the most mystifying part of my message prep, and that is when I convert my 7-page manuscript here, and it's usually between 7 and 8 pages, into a series of pictures. And so I'll use a bunch of markers and pencils and pens, and I'll draw some pictures, and that's what I will preach off of this weekend. So I'm just going to dive right in and do that now. That's it. I am finally done. This is it. Got 3 pages, just to kind of bled over the last one, and this is what I'm going to preach off this weekend. So I'll scan it into my computer, and I will preach from this picture, and by the time I'm done practicing this afternoon, it'll be largely memorized. So that is how I prepare a message.